and welcome to Study with Sudhir. My name is Sudhir and we are in this video going to start the CBSE Class 10 Political Science as part of the Social Studies entire syllabus. We are going to start with the first chapter of Democratic Politics textbook of NCERT called Power Sharing, right? Two things before I start. We are going to be explaining in simple English, and I'm doing this for two reasons, and these are important reasons. Reason number one, you will be writing your answers in English. So if you understand it in simple English, it makes the job of writing those answers that much easier, right? I hope you agree with that. Number two, there are lots of our young friends living in South India, in the eastern part of India, some of them in the western part of India, who are not comfortable with understanding Hindi. So for the benefit of this large population, I want to explain it in simple English so that they can also benefit and score really high marks in this social studies subject paper, right? So once we have clarified that, let's get started. So power sharing. Now, power sharing is equated with division, isn't it? You know, you're sharing, you're dividing. Does it mean that it also means that what you get is actually less? Not really. When power is shared, it actually helps in strengthening the body that you are operating in. It could be a school, it could be a classroom, it could be a residents' welfare association, it could be a state, it could be a country, right? So let's look at it, and by the end of this video, you will understand it very well. I can guarantee you that. I come with more than 30 years experience in reporting on politics and governance. So when I teach, it will also be laced with a lot of practical examples. I will not just read the book and tell it to you straight away. Okay, I will make you understand with the help of lots of practical examples, which I have reported on, which I have first-hand information and knowledge about, so that it makes your understanding that much easier. It won't be ratification. SWS में किसी भी बच्चे को no student will have to rote learn. Okay, that's a guarantee. That's a promise you students should make to me. Okay, so let's get started. Now, your textbook starts with a very interesting examples of two countries. One in South Asia, which is our immediate neighbor Sri Lanka to the south of India, and the second, this beautiful country called Belgium. If you see the map on the left-hand side of your screen, you will see there is a sea which divides England with the rest of Europe. Okay, so you cross the sea, you come into Belgium. That's the first stop. In fact, in 2001, after I'd done a course in the UK, we had traveled from London to Brussels in Belgium. Then we went to Amsterdam in Holland, then we went to Paris, and then we went to Frankfurt in Germany. So that's the usual tourist kind of a map that is quite popular out there. And on the right-hand side, you are seeing Belgium. Beautiful country. If you ever get a chance to visit, you must visit. Okay, let's get started with Belgium. Now, why are we talking about Belgium? Now, in terms of geographical size, it is smaller than even a small state in India, which is Haryana, right? Haryana, of course, is not as big a state as, say, a Rajasthan or a Maharashtra or an Uttar Pradesh or a Madhya Pradesh, right? Belgium is smaller than even Haryana. The population of Belgium, according to the latest figures, is 1.1 crore people. In terms of ethnicity, ethnicity is essentially relating to your race, your culture, the language that you speak in. Now, of the country's total population, of Belgium's total population, 59% people lives in the Flemish region and they speak the Dutch language. Okay, 40% of the population lives in the Wallonia region and speaks French. There is 1% which is on the eastern part of Belgium which speaks German. If you see the map that I put on the right hand side of your screen, the red part, the northern part, is this Flemish or the Flanders region as it is called. Okay, they speak Dutch. The southern part is the part, Wallonia region, which speaks French. And Germany is on the right hand side, which I just showed you in the map. So which is why the areas bordering Germany are the ones which speak German, just 1% of the population. Brussels is technically in the northern part of the country. But Brussels' own position in terms of language is actually very interesting because it's very different. We will come to that in a bit. Okay, so the interesting part is that even though the French-speaking population is less, is in a minority, only 40%, but they were the rich people and the politically powerful people in Belgium. So they called the shots, and this was resented by the majority Dutch people. Ki, we are more in Belgium, but it is the French who actually end up calling the shots. So that is something which was resented by the Dutch-speaking population. Okay, so they got the benefits of education and economic development much later, and they had to fight for it. It led to a lot of tension between the Dutch-speaking population and the French-speaking population. Shall we move on? Yahan tak samajh mein aa gaya? You have understood till here. I grew up in Delhi, so I can speak very good Hindi, but I want to kind of reach out to all those students who do not understand Hindi. Okay. And I'm sure all my friends who speak Hindi also will understand my very simple English. The situation in Brussels is actually quite different. Okay. Here, 80% people speak French and 20% only speak Dutch. What was the situation in the entire country? 59 to 40, Dutch to French. But in Brussels, the capital of Belgium, the situation is reversed. 80% speak French and 20% speak Dutch. Now you understand why the French are more politically powerful, because in the capital where all the important decisions are taken, it is the French-speaking people who are in a majority. These small things make a big difference. So over a period of time, there were tensions between the different groups. The peculiarity in the capital city, I've already pointed out. The Dutch-speaking people were in a majority in Belgium, but they were in a minority in the capital where all the important decisions were taken. Right inside is a picture of Brussels, beautiful country, city, sorry. Now let's come to closer home. Let's come to Sri Lanka. You see the map of Sri Lanka, right? The population is 2.1 crore. The major groups here are the Sinhalese, which is the native Sri Lankan population, and the Tamils. And even among the Tamils, there are the Sri Lankan Tamils and the Indian Tamils. The Indian Tamils are essentially people, the plantation workers, because there are a lot of tea plantations in Sri Lanka, right? So the people who moved from India to work as plantation workers and eventually became the owners of plantations there, a lot of people from South India went. So they are the Indian Tamils. I'll tell you one interesting story. We were actually in Paris during the same trip, 2001. So there was one lady who was kind of feeling lost. We also did not know about Paris, obviously. So she asked for the address. She said no French. So I said, even we can't speak French. So we said English. She said no English, only Tamil. So we were very excited because we speak Tamil. So thought, okay, in a unknown foreign land to get to know somebody or speak to somebody in your mother tongue. But it so transpired that she was a Sri Lankan Tamil and not an Indian Tamil. So, and the Tamil that Sri Lankans speak, the entire grammar of the Tamil language is quite different from this Tamil that we speak in India. So it's not exactly very easy to converse with each other in that sense. For instance, Ravichandran Ashwin will find it quite difficult to speak in Tamil to a Muthaiya Muralidharan. Let me tell you that. Okay. Now, the interesting thing, now if you see the map of Sri Lanka, the middle portion, the violet or the bluish portion is where the Sri Lanka Sinhalese population is concentrated. So you can see they're clearly in a majority. The red part that you see towards the northern part where Jaffna kind of cities are there, that is the Sri Lankan Tamil area. Okay. Then comes the Indian Tamil area, which is like, you know, some shaded parts that you see, dark brown areas on top, etc. that you see, that is the Indian Tamil area, which is, there are very few. Even within the 18% Tamil population, the Sri Lankan Tamil population is obviously more than the Indian Tamil population. Okay, the Sinhalese are largely Buddhists, while Tamils are, let me move the table a little closer, While the Indians, Tamils are essentially Hindus or Muslims, there are a few Christians who are both Sinhalese as well as Tamils. Okay, so that's the ethnic division as far as Sri Lanka is concerned. I hope it's all clear till now. Now let's get to the operative part. Before I do that, let me show you some tourism pictures. We went to Sri Lanka in 2014 December, and you see this photograph from the left hand side. Now this is the place where goddess Sita is believed to have done the Agni Pariksha after Ravan was killed and she met Lord Ram, and then there was this entire thing that she should prove that she's pure, all that jazz. So she undertook the sacred, this is a sacred place where Queen Sita took her oath, the Agni Pariksha. Very surprising. This is not really, this is a Ramayana trail in Sri Lanka, because there are a lot of interest things associated with the Ramayana, but they're not really marketed well as a, this was like one small place behind a small temple, you know, and there was no tourist there. Very surprising, right? This is a photograph I took. On the left hand side, now this is on top of a hill. This is the place where Lord Hanuman is believed to have rested after having met Sita and going back to meet Lord Ram, right? So this is one place again on top of a hill, a beautiful view from there, but again beyond the stones, etc., and you see a trishul and some flowers and some threads, etc., being tied. Nothing which kind of indicates the mythological importance of this spot. This photograph is my wife and my daughter. Behind you, behind them, you see the rocks, and there are some depressions. This is the Ashok Vatika, where goddess Sita is believed to have been kept captive, and this is where Hanuman came and met her, and these depressions are apparently because of the places where he stepped. Okay, these are all the stories. This is again a small temple. So again, something which could really be marketed well as a tourist destination hasn't really been done. Okay, let's get back to business. Sri Lanka, what it did as opposed to now, the situation in Belgium is very different from the situation in Sri Lanka. You have understood that till now. Sri Lanka undertook what is called majoritarian measures to establish the Sinhala majority. What does that mean? Sinhalese are the majority, right? They want to impose their will. We are the majority community, so what we decide will be implemented in the entire country of Sri Lanka. That's what they said. The Jayavardhanes, the Rajapaksas, you know, the Maitripala Sirsana, everywhere. So that is what they imposed. Majoritarian measures, that's a phrase which is used. Measures taken by the majority in their own interest. And what was the interest? To establish Sinhala supremacy. That if Tamils who are in a minority in Sri Lanka have to live peacefully, they will have to agree and obey the laws made by the Sinhalese, even if it goes against their interests, right? What did they do? They made Sinhala as the official language, ignoring Tamil. They protected and encouraged Buddhism as the religion. They favored Sinhala applicants in university jobs, in government jobs, etc. So in that sense, the new constitution stipulated that the state shall promote and encourage Buddhism. So if I am not a Buddhist, how will I feel that, you know, the state does not even encourage or allow me to practice my religion, to pray to my God? You understand that? And these things can upset a lot of people, quite understandable, right? That was the Sri Lanka flag. Sri Lanka, what this led to? It led to a feeling of alienation among Sri Lankan Tamils. What does that mean? That if I am a Tamil, you know, I will feel very alienated, that I am not being treated, I am being treated as a second-class citizen in my own country, right? And that can lead to a feeling of being humiliated, that could lead to a lot of resentment. There was denial of equal political rights and jobs. You know, if I am a Tamil and there's a Sinhala applicant also, even if I am more qualified than him, he will get the job, right? So those were the kind of problems. There was lack of sensitivity to Tamil language, Tamil culture, and language and culture are things which are passed on from generations. So you feel very sensitive about those kind of things. So they made a demand that Tamil should be recognized as the official language. And when this did not happen, it led to a lot of clashes. LTT and many other terror groups came up. They were called terrorists because they were fighting against the Sinhalese and they were using violence as a means. Velupalli Prabhakaran was the leader of the LTT, which was the strongest of those groups. There were a lot of refugees who started coming into Tamil Nadu. Even today, there are refugees, Tamil refugees living in camps in Tamil Nadu, in different parts of Tamil Nadu, be it Rameshwaram, be it even Chennai, right? It led to civil war, a lot of clashes through the 1980s, 1990s, till the death of Prabhakaran. Okay, LTT was considered, and they used to raise funds in Europe, in countries in Europe. They would send delegations to India, etc. But after LTT was accused of killing former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, LTT became a banned organization as far as India was concerned, because they came and killed one of our leaders, right? Now, on the right-hand side, you see this Buddha statue, because Buddhism is the main religion of the Sinhalese there, and a Buddhist monk. Let's go back to the Belgian model. What did Belgium do? So you've understood what Belgium situation is and what Sri Lanka situation is, right? Now let's look at what Belgium did, and we'll look at what Sri Lanka did. The Belgium politicians decided, and very wisely so, that they changed the constitution 4 times between 1970 and 1993 in order to ensure equal number of Dutch speaking and French speaking ministers in the central government. So for instance, if there are 20 ministers, I'm just taking an example, I'm not saying there are 20 ministers in the Belgian government. If there are 20 ministers, 10 will be French speaking, 10 will be Dutch speaking, so that they're equally matched, so that both sides do not feel aggrieved, even though the Dutch are in a majority in the country, but they are in a minority in the national capital. The state governments, it said, will not be subordinate to the center. So the French government in, say, the southern part of Belgium, they make laws for themselves. They don't have to be, no law will be imposed from the central government on any of the state governments. The powers were shared, sharing of power, so that both the states and the central governments do not feel that, someone is kind of imposing their will on each other. Both communities, that is the French speaking and the Dutch speaking communities, have equal representation in the government in Brussels. And community government, this is a very important aspect, because as I said, religion, language, culture, etc. is passed on from our forefathers. So we feel very sensitive. There is an umbilical cord kind of binding, right? So community government, which would be like more local government, where people would be consulted at the local level, they had the powers on cultural, language related and education related issues, because these are things which matter on a day-to-day basis. What language is the teacher teaching in my child's school? That matters, right? What language is the morning prayer in the assembly in? These kind of, it may seem very small from a national point of view, but in a city, in a town, in a village, these kind of things matter a lot. I hope you understood till now. So why is power sharing very important? This part, this PPT is very important. Listen carefully. Reason number 1, when you share power, and I'll give you the example of a school so that you can understand and relate to it better. School A has a head boy and a head girl. That's all. Head boy and the head girl take all the decisions on behalf of the students in the school. School A. School B has a head boy and a head girl. They have a deputy head boy and a deputy head girl. They have a literary captain. They have a sports captain. They have a cultural in charge. They have a books editor, right? So what is happening is that powers have been shared. So if there is a sports meet, the head boy and the head girl will consult the sports captain also, so that there is powers are shared, so that there are more views coming into it. The sports captain may have a view very different from that of the head boy, right? If it was in school A, there will be some students who will feel very upset with the decisions taken only by the head boy and the head girl. But here, the head boy, the head girl, the sports captain, if there is an annual day, the literary captain, the cultural captain, they will all be consulted. So it will be a group which will decide on behalf of the students, and different points of view will be incorporated. That is called power sharing. That is called power sharing. Okay. So power sharing, what it does, it reduces conflict between different social groups. Otherwise, in school A, what you will find that different people will say, अरे क्या बेवकूफों की तरह decision लिया है, इससे तो कुछ नहीं होगा, this is a nonsensical decision, the head boy is nonsense, he doesn't know anything, right? But here, since the literary captain may well go back to his classroom and consult 4 more people, 10 more people, so it will be a more democratic way of decision taking on a particular issue. Understood? It helps political stability in a country, unlike what is happening or happened in Sri Lanka, where there was civil war, right? If there is power shared, because the Sinhalese were not willing to share power with the Tamil groups, right? So because there was no power sharing, it led to civil strife in Sri Lanka. It did not happen in Belgium, which is why these two examples are so very significant. The third reason is a prudential reason. Prudential word comes from prudence, means intelligent reason. And this is very important. Listen to this carefully. Imposing the will of the majority affects the unity of the nation. If you decide, like for instance, it's often said in the case of a Pakistan, which is an Islamic Republic of Pakistan. The Hindus feel discriminated against because they are in a minority in Pakistan, right? So the majority community, it is incumbent, it is necessary for the majority community never to make the minorities feel that they are in a minority, कि हम तुम्हारी बात नहीं सुनेंगे, that we will not listen to you. That kind of a feeling should never be given to the minority community. There are sometimes people in India also who feel that, oh, we are not being listened to. But that Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas is an important slogan. It's much more than a slogan. You need to implement it and make the minorities feel that they are also heard in India. They are also important citizens of the country. Their voice also matters. Right? So tyranny of the majority is a very important phrase, that there should never be tyranny of the majority. Tyranny word comes from the word tyrant. Tyrant means someone who is cruel. So the majority community should never be cruel, should not be dominating so much that it starts affecting the unity and the social fabric of the country. A Hindu may have a Muslim neighbor, but I cannot allow my two different religions to become a wall between us. We need to be together as a community, because the road that passes in front of my house will also pass in front of your house. We cannot afford to build walls between different communities, because we are all at the end of the day citizens of the same country. Moral reasons. In the spirit of democracy, that everyone's voice should be heard. Right to be consulted. I am a citizen of my country. I have the right to be heard. I vote, and the government, people in positions of power should listen to my point of view. Citizens should feel they have a stake in the system. Ki ye sarkar meri hai. This is my government. I have voted for this MP. He jolly well listen to what I have to say. You understand? Power sharing is also important because it emerged in opposition to the notion of undivided political power. What is undivided political power? When you do not share your power with anyone, what happened in Sri Lanka? Sinhalese said, "Arey, we will not share our power. Come what may, we will not share our power." So when you do not share your power, that is one thing. Power sharing is in opposition to that idea of we will not share power. This says you have to share power. We also should have a stake in the system. We should also have a say in the system, because at the end of the day, people are the source of all political power. Why does Narendra Modi call himself a Pradhan Sevak? He's a Pradhan Mantri, but he calls himself the Pradhan Sevak, the prime servant, because it is we people who have put him in that position of power. It is because of our vote that his party is in power, and that has elected him as its leader. So you also need to respect different forms of diverse group. I may not like what you're saying, but I need to respect your point of view. Understood? Just like in the case of the school, The head boy may not like what the sports captain has to say, but he has to respect his or her point of view. How is power shared in different countries? Like in India, one form is that when you share it between the legislature, that is parliament, executive, which is the prime minister and the council of ministers, and judiciary, which is supreme court, high court, and subordinate courts. So because the horizontal, when you spread the power, just like on a plate, when you spread it, it leads to balance. There is balance of power, one checks and balances. If parliament makes a law which is not according to the constitution of India, I as a citizen can go to the supreme court and get it struck down. I can argue that this law that parliament has made, this is against the constitution of India. So you can check and balances. Parliament is not supreme in that sense. Executive is not supreme. Judiciary is also not supreme. So there is checks and balances between the different organs of the entire power structure. समझ में आया या सो रहे हो? Another way of power sharing is among governments at different levels. There is center and there are state governments. State governments are not servants of the center. Center has some powers, state governments have some powers. They don't get into each other's space. That is what is called power sharing. The state governments are not like, servants of the center. There is federal division of power between the center and the states. That is what is called federalism, which we will read in chapter number 2, right? The power is also shared among social groups and different forms of social groups, farmer groups, cultural organizations, different forms of groups, people with disabilities. You need to listen to them and find out what is it that you need. Industry association, different forms of governments, student unions, you need to listen to everybody. Elections are there in reserved constituencies. Certain constituencies in the country are reserved for SC candidates or ST candidates. That is, this constituency will elect only an SC candidate. My constituency, in fact, at the assembly level, is a reserved constituency for SC. Okay, so the candidates will only be SCs and we'll have to elect one among the SC candidates. So in order to give representation to different forms of groups, social groups. Then coalition government. No party gets a majority. Okay, so I have a certain set of ideas. You have another set of ideas. Certain set of ideas we don't match. So what we will do, we will form the government, we will form a common minimum program. Out of that common minimum program, which means I agree on this. Oh, good. You also agree on this. Great. So we will implement this in the interest of people of the country. I want this or you don't want this. Okay, we will keep this out of the common minimum program. So only what is common minimum, common and minimum will be implemented by that coalition government. So coalition government means again what? Power is shared. I have fought the election against party B, but I'm willing to form a government with party B because otherwise you'll have to hold elections again. Elections are a very expensive affair, right? So I'm willing to share power with party B and I'll say that, okay, whatever I and you both agree on, we will implement those welfare schemes. Okay, so with this, we come to the end of the first chapter of your political science syllabus for CBSE class 10. I hope it is clear. Any doubts, feel free to ask. More than happy to reply and address all those doubts. We will continue with the political science syllabus for CBSE class 10. And I do hope you will subscribe to the channel. I hope you will also share this video with your friends and classmates so that it can reach to a wider student population. Thank you very much for watching. God bless you.